A man once asked a Sufi master, "Why do I feel sad even when Allah has given me so much?" The master smiled, but instead of answering, he took the man to the ocean at night. The waves were violent, the sky was dark, and in the distance, a ship was floating with only one small lantern glowing inside it. The master pointed toward the ship and asked, "What do you think would happen if that light went out?" The man replied, "The ship would disappear into darkness." The master looked at him and quietly said, "That is your soul." Then he continued, "This dunya keeps teaching you to decorate the ship, while Allah is trying to protect the light inside it." And suddenly the man began to cry, because for the first time in his life, he understood why nothing in this world could satisfy him. Not money, not people, not success, not distractions, because the soul was never created to feed on dunya. The soul was created to survive on the remembrance of Allah. And when a person ignores that light for too long, their chest begins feeling heavy. A strange emptiness appears. Even beautiful things stop feeling beautiful. Even laughter begins feeling fake. This is why some people can have everything, yet secretly feel miserable inside. And this is also why some broken believers, with nothing but Allah, still feel peace in their hearts. Ibn Arabi believed there are souls Allah chooses in a strange way, not by making their life easier, but by making this world feel too small for their heart. So they stop worshipping dunya and start searching for the one who created them. Maybe that is why your soul feels restless lately. Maybe Allah is not punishing you. Maybe He is waking you up. Because when Allah loves a soul, He does not allow it to sleep peacefully inside an illusion for too long. Allah made this world feel empty because your soul was created for Him. You tried to enjoy what everyone else enjoys, but something inside you still feels empty. That strange restlessness in your chest is not random. It may be Allah refusing to let your heart fall asleep in dunya. When Allah chooses a soul, He makes the world taste too small, so the soul starts searching for the one it truly belongs to. You may have noticed this your entire life. You smile with people, but when you return home, the silence feels heavy. You achieve something you once prayed for, but the happiness fades faster than you expected. You try to distract yourself with entertainment, scrolling, conversations, goals, dreams, yet late at night, your heart still whispers, "There has to be more than this." That feeling is not weakness. It is the soul remembering Allah. Some people become completely satisfied with this world. They become intoxicated by money, attention, desires, status, and temporary pleasure. But when Allah chooses someone for closeness, He does not allow their heart to fully rest in dunya. He lets them taste it, but never enough to become lost inside it. That is why your soul keeps feeling restless. You may sit in a crowded room and still feel lonely. You may laugh with everyone else, while secretly feeling disconnected inside. You may even wonder sometimes, why can't I just be normal like everyone else? Because your heart was not created to belong to this world completely. Allah created your soul for something higher. And sometimes the biggest sign Allah loves you is that He refuses to let worldly things satisfy you for too long, even when you drift away. Even when your prayer becomes weak, even when your heart becomes distracted, something always pulls you back. A reminder, a hardship, a quiet fear, a verse, a late-night thought, a sudden emptiness after sin. That is Allah calling your soul home. Because a heart chosen by Allah cannot remain comfortable far from Him. And this is why some of the deepest people often carry hidden sadness, not because they hate life, but because their soul knows this dunya is temporary. Their heart is searching for eternal peace, not temporary distraction. Ibn Arabi spoke deeply about this hidden longing of the soul. He taught that every human heart is searching for something infinite, even if they do not realize it. Some people try to fill that emptiness with relationships. Some try money. Some try fame. Some try pleasure. But the emptiness remains, because the space inside the soul was created only for Allah. And when Allah chooses you, He allows you to feel that emptiness deeply, so you stop worshipping temporary things. He breaks your attachment to dunya little by little. That is why certain sins no longer feel enjoyable to you. That is why certain gatherings suddenly drain your energy. That is why some conversations feel empty now. Allah is changing your taste. He is teaching your heart to crave what is pure. Maybe that is why your life feels different lately. You are outgrowing things that once distracted you. Your soul is becoming tired of fake love, fake success, fake happiness, fake people, fake peace. Now your heart wants something real. And the real thing your soul has been searching for all along is Allah. Allah removed them because they were quietly taking His place in your heart. You thought losing them would destroy you. You thought their absence was punishment. But what if Allah was not taking them away from you? What if He was taking you back from them? Some people leave your life because Allah knows they would have made you forget Him slowly. And when Allah chooses you, He breaks the attachment before the attachment breaks your soul. At first, you do not understand this. You only feel the pain. You replay the memories. You question yourself. You stare at old messages. You wonder why someone you loved suddenly became distant. You ask Allah, why did this happen to me? But sometimes the people you cry over are the very people Allah was protecting you from. Not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. Some people come to expose your wounds. Some come to teach you detachment. Some come to reveal how deeply attached your heart has become to creation instead of the Creator. And this is painful because the human heart loves deeply. You become emotionally attached. You begin depending on their presence. Their attention becomes your peace. Their love becomes your emotional oxygen. Without realizing it, your heart slowly begins leaning on them more than Allah. That is dangerous, because Allah did not create your soul to depend completely on another human being. People change. People leave. People disappoint. People die. But Allah remains. So when Allah sees your heart becoming too attached to something temporary, sometimes He removes it out of mercy. Not because He hates you, because He loves you too much to let your soul drown in something that cannot save you. And the frightening part is this. Sometimes the thing destroying your heart looks beautiful in the beginning. That relationship looked perfect. That friendship felt comforting. That dream seemed exciting. But Allah sees what you cannot see. You see the emotions. Allah sees the ending. You see what makes you happy now. Allah sees what will damage your iman later. So He closes the door. And yes, it hurts. Chosen souls often go through painful separations, not because Allah abandoned them, but because Allah is purifying their hearts. He wants your heart free. Free from worshipping attention, free from chasing validation, free from emotional slavery to people, because a heart addicted to people can never fully belong to Allah. That is why, after certain heartbreaks, you changed. You became quieter. You became more careful with who enters your life. You stopped trusting words too easily. And, slowly, you started realizing something powerful. The people you thought you needed to survive were never sustaining you. Allah was. Even during the nights you cried over them, Allah kept your heart beating. Even when they forgot you, Allah never forgot you. Even when they walked away, Allah stayed. That realization changes a person deeply. Because once your heart understands that Allah is enough, people stop controlling your peace. You stop begging for love. You stop destroying yourself trying to keep people who are comfortable hurting you. You stop chasing doors Allah already closed. And instead of asking, why did they leave? You begin asking, what was Allah trying to save me from? That is spiritual maturity. And sometimes, years later, you finally look back and whisper, Ya Allah, thank you for removing what I was too blind to let go of myself. Because the truth is, some losses are actually rescue missions from Allah. Your pain was not meant to bury you. It was meant to awaken you. There are wounds you still do not talk about. There are nights you survived without anyone knowing how close you were to breaking. But that pain did something to you. It made you deeper. It made you softer. It made you see life differently. Sometimes Allah allows the heart to break, not because He has abandoned it, but because He is creating space for light to enter. Before the pain, you were distracted. You were busy chasing things that now feel meaningless. You thought happiness would come from people, from success, from attention, from finally getting everything you wanted. But then Allah allowed a storm into your life, and suddenly, the things you once depended on could not save you anymore. That heartbreak could not be fixed by money. That emptiness could not be healed by entertainment. That loneliness could not be silenced by people. So, for the first time, your soul began searching for something deeper. This is why pain changes certain people forever. Not because suffering itself is beautiful, but because suffering removes illusions. Pain reveals reality. It shows you who truly cares. It exposes fake love. It humbles your ego. It reminds you how weak human beings really are. And most importantly, it teaches you how desperately you need Allah. Many people only discover Allah deeply after life breaks them. Not because Allah enjoys your suffering, but because comfort sometimes makes people spiritually asleep. When life is easy, people become distracted. They forget death. They forget the Akhirah. They forget their dependence on Allah. But pain wakes the soul up. Suddenly your dua becomes sincere. Suddenly sujood feels different. Suddenly one verse from the Quran hits your heart harder than ever before. Because broken hearts listen differently. And maybe that is why Allah allowed certain pain in your life. Not to destroy you. To wake you up before dunya completely consumed your soul. Ibn Arabi often spoke about hidden wisdom behind suffering. He understood that some wounds are actually invitations from Allah. Invitations to return. Invitations to purify the heart. Invitations to detach from illusion. Because sometimes Allah removes your comfort, so you finally search for Him seriously. And if you look honestly at your own life, you may realize something shocking. The moments that brought you closest to Allah were not your happiest moments. They were your hardest ones. The nights you cried the most, you prayed the most. The seasons where you felt alone, you spoke to Allah the most. The moments where life humbled you, your heart became the softest. That pain changed your soul. You are not the same person anymore. You see through people faster now. You value peace more now. You care less about impressing others. You have learned that this world can change overnight. And because of that, your heart slowly began turning toward what is eternal instead of temporary. That is why your pain was not meaningless. Allah was shaping you in secret. Every tear taught you something. Every betrayal taught you something. Every lonely night taught you something. Even the silence taught you something. And maybe the biggest lesson was this: only Allah can hold a broken soul without breaking it further. People may comfort you temporarily, but only Allah can heal the part nobody sees. So do not hate every painful chapter of your life. Some chapters were necessary, because without them, you may never have searched for Allah the way you do now. Allah keeps pulling you back, because your story is not finished. You fell again. You promised yourself you would change. Then you returned to the same weakness. And now Shaitan whispers, "You are too far gone." But listen carefully. If Allah had abandoned you, you would not feel guilty. If Allah had left you, you would not want to return. The fact that your heart still says, "Ya Allah, at all," is proof that the door is still open. There are people living in complete darkness who no longer feel anything after sin. Their hearts became numb. They lie without guilt. They hurt others without regret. They ignore prayer without pain. They live far from Allah and sleep peacefully at night. But you, even after your mistakes, your soul still feels heavy. After every sin, something inside you breaks a little. You try to distract yourself, but the emptiness returns. You try to run, but your heart keeps turning back toward Allah. That is not weakness. That is mercy. Because one of the greatest signs Allah has chosen someone is that He never allows their soul to feel comfortable far away from Him. You may drift. You may become weak. You may lose discipline. But somehow, Allah keeps calling you back. Sometimes through guilt. Sometimes through pain. Sometimes through a reminder that suddenly hits your chest at 2 a.m. Sometimes through a hardship that forces you to pray again. Sometimes through a silent feeling that says, "This life is not enough." And every time you return, Allah accepts you again. Think about that. Human beings get tired of forgiving. People remind you of your past. People judge you forever for one mistake. People close their doors after disappointment. But Allah keeps opening the door. Again, and again, and again, no matter how many times you fall. That is why Shaitan's biggest goal is not only making you sin, his real goal is making you believe Allah no longer wants you after the sin. Because once a person loses hope in Allah's mercy, they stop trying to return. But Allah's mercy is bigger than your worst mistake. Read that again. Bigger than your worst mistake. The reason your chest still hurts after disobeying Allah is because your heart is still alive. A dead heart feels nothing, but a chosen heart cannot stay distant for long. Even when you try to ignore Allah, your soul secretly misses Him. That sadness you feel after returning to old sins, that disappointment inside you, that feeling of being spiritually dirty, is actually a sign that Allah is still protecting your heart from becoming completely hard. Never underestimate the mercy of guilt. Guilt can save a soul, because guilt leads to tawbah. And tawbah is one of the most beloved acts to Allah. Ibn Arabi spoke deeply about the relationship between human weakness and divine mercy. He understood something many people forget. Allah never expected you to be an angel. He expected you to be a servant. A servant falls, but returns. A servant becomes weak, but asks Allah for strength. A servant saint, but refuses to stop knocking on Allah's door. And maybe your repeated struggle is not proof that Allah hates you. Maybe it is proof that Allah is teaching you humility, teaching you dependence, teaching you that without Him, you are nothing. Because the people closest to Allah are often the ones most aware of their own weakness. Not arrogant people, not people who think they are perfect. Broken people, people who know they desperately need Allah every single day. So stop believing the lie that you are too damaged. You are not too damaged for the one who created your heart. You are not too sinful for the one whose mercy covers the heavens and the earth. As long as you are breathing, your story with Allah is not over. And maybe the reason Allah keeps bringing you back after every fall is because He already decided that your final chapter will not be darkness. Allah made you different because He did not create you to blend into the lost crowd. You tried to fit in. You tried to laugh with them. You tried to chase what they chase. But deep down, Something always felt wrong. That loneliness you feel around certain people may not be rejection. It may be protection. When Allah chooses you, He separates your heart from the crowd before the crowd steals your light. You noticed it slowly. Certain conversations started feeling empty. Certain people started draining your soul. Places that once entertained you suddenly began making your chest feel dark. And while everyone around you seemed comfortable, your heart kept feeling disconnected. At first, you thought something was wrong with you. Why can everyone else enjoy this life so easily? Why do certain things bother me so deeply? Why does my soul keep craving something more meaningful? Because Allah may be protecting your fitra. There are people whose hearts become fully consumed by dunya. They only think about money, attention, status, desires, validation. Their entire existence revolves around impressing people. But when Allah chooses a soul, He does not allow that soul to feel fully satisfied with shallow things. You can try to ignore it. You can try to force yourself to blend in, but your soul keeps resisting because your heart was not created to belong to the crowd completely. And this becomes very lonely sometimes, especially in today's world. A world where people normalize sins, mock modesty, celebrate emptiness, and chase attention as if human approval is paradise. When you refuse to fully follow that path, you naturally begin feeling isolated. People may call you too deep, too emotional, too religious, too sensitive, but maybe your soul is simply awake. Maybe Allah allowed you to see what others are still distracted from, not because you are better than them. Never think that. Spiritual arrogance destroys the heart. The point is not that you are superior. The point is that Allah gave you awareness. And awareness is a responsibility. Because once Allah opens your eyes, you cannot pretend you do not see anymore. You start noticing how temporary everything is. The people chasing fame still feel empty. The people addicted to attention still feel insecure. The people drowning in dunya still cannot find peace. And deep inside, your soul starts realizing that real peace cannot be found in this world alone. That realization changes you. You stop caring about fitting in everywhere. You stop needing constant validation. You stop chasing every trend just because everyone else follows it. Your priorities begin changing. You start protecting your peace more carefully. You become selective about who enters your life. You crave silence more than noise. You crave sincerity more than popularity. You crave closeness to Allah more than temporary entertainment. And this is one of the loneliest transformations a person can experience, because growth often separates you from environments that once felt normal. Suddenly you cannot relate to certain people anymore. You still love them. You still care about them. But your soul no longer feels at home in the same darkness. That is why chosen souls often walk through periods of isolation, not because Allah wants to punish them, because Allah is teaching them how to stand without depending on the crowd. And the truth is, most people lose themselves trying to be accepted. They silence their soul just to belong somewhere. They betray their values just to avoid feeling alone. But Allah is teaching you something higher. It is better to walk alone with Allah than to walk with the crowd away from Him. And maybe that is why your life feels different now. You are outgrowing things your soul was never meant to stay attached to forever. You are becoming more conscious, more awake, more aware of Allah. And although that journey feels lonely sometimes, it is leading you somewhere beautiful, toward a heart that belongs to Allah more than it belongs to this world. Allah is opening your inner eye until you see His signs everywhere. You used to call it coincidence. Now you notice the timing, the delay, the closed door, the exposed truth, the sudden reminder, the dua answered in a way you did not expect. When Allah awakens a heart, life stops looking random. Everything becomes a message. Everything becomes a mirror. Everything becomes a sign calling you back to Him. Before, you moved through life without thinking deeply. Things happened, and you quickly forgot them. A person entered your life. A door closed. A hardship appeared. A strange feeling settled in your chest. But you never paused long enough to ask, what is Allah trying to show me through this? Now something has changed. Now your soul pays attention. You notice how certain people disappear from your life exactly when your heart was becoming too attached to them. You notice how Allah delays something you desperately wanted, then later reveals why that delay saved you. You notice how every time you drift too far spiritually, a reminder suddenly appears in your life. A verse, a lecture, a hardship, a late-night feeling, a silent emptiness that pulls you back toward prayer. None of that feels random anymore, because when Allah chooses a soul, He teaches that soul how to see beyond appearances. Most people only see events, but awakened hearts search for meaning. That is why two people can experience the same hardship, yet only one of them becomes closer to Allah through it. One person only sees pain. The other sees an invitation from Allah hidden inside the pain. And this way of seeing changes your entire life. Suddenly, your heartbreak is no longer just heartbreak. It becomes a lesson about attachment. Your loneliness becomes a lesson about dependence on Allah. Your delays become lessons about patience. Your disappointments become lessons about where you placed your trust. Even your wounds begin teaching you things. This is one of the deepest spiritual transformations. When Allah opens your inner eye, you stop rushing through life blindly. You start reflecting, thinking, listening. You begin understanding that Allah speaks to hearts in ways beyond words. Sometimes through loss, sometimes through silence, sometimes through beauty, sometimes through suffering. And the strange thing is, the more pain you survive, the more sensitive your soul becomes to Allah's signs. Because suffering removes distractions. Pain humbles the ego. Hardship forces the heart to slow down and notice things it ignored before. That is why many people only truly begin seeing Allah after life breaks them. Not because Allah abandoned them, because the breaking removed the veil covering their heart. Ibn Arabi spoke deeply about this hidden reality. He believed the universe itself is filled with signs pointing toward Allah. But not everyone can see them. A distracted heart misses the signs. A prideful heart ignores the signs. A heart addicted to dunya becomes blind to the signs. But a softened heart, a broken heart, a heart searching sincerely, begins noticing Allah everywhere. In the sky, in silence, in timing, in unanswered prayers, even in pain, especially in pain. And maybe that is why your soul feels different now. You cannot experience things casually anymore. Everything touches your heart deeply. A single Quran verse can make your chest feel heavy. One sincere dua can make tears fall from your eyes. One reminder about death can shake your entire perspective on life. Because Allah is awakening your soul slowly. He is teaching you that life is not random, that every chapter has meaning, that every delay has wisdom, that every heartbreak contains a hidden lesson, that every hardship carries a message for the soul willing to reflect. And once Allah opens this inner awareness, you can never fully return to spiritual blindness again. You start realizing that Allah was protecting you in moments you thought He was ignoring you. You start realizing some unanswered prayers were actually mercy. You start realizing some closed doors were rescue missions. You start realizing certain painful endings saved your soul from future destruction. And suddenly, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" your heart starts asking, "What is Allah teaching me through this?" That question changes everything, because now your pain has purpose. Now your waiting has meaning. Now your loneliness becomes a doorway toward Allah instead of despair. This is the difference between a sleeping soul and an awakened soul. One sees life randomly. The other sees Allah's fingerprints everywhere. And maybe that awareness itself is one of the greatest signs Allah chose you over millions of others. Allah is making you uncomfortable because He is calling you to a higher rank. You know you cannot stay the same. Even when you ignore it, you feel it. That quiet pressure inside your soul, that feeling that you were created for more, is not there to shame you. It is there to wake you. Allah is not making you restless because He hates you. He is making you restless because He is raising you. And the version of you that keeps delaying repentance cannot enter the rank Allah is calling you toward. There is a reason your old life no longer satisfies you. A reason certain habits now make your chest feel heavy. A reason your soul feels exhausted after wasting time, chasing distractions, or returning to the same sins. Allah is elevating your awareness. Before, you could ignore your soul for weeks. Now even one night far from Allah feels painful. Before, you could drown yourself in distractions. Now, the distractions feel empty faster than ever. Before, you thought happiness was in getting more from dunya. Now your heart is beginning to realize that real peace only comes from closeness to Allah. That shift is not random. That is spiritual awakening. And awakening is uncomfortable, because Allah begins pulling you away from the version of yourself that was asleep, the careless version, the distracted version, the version addicted to people's validation, the version that kept delaying change while secretly knowing life was slipping away. Deep down, you know Allah is calling you toward something higher, toward discipline, toward sincerity, toward purification, toward becoming the person your soul was always meant to become. But the nafs fights back. The nafs loves comfort. It whispers, later, you still have time. One more sin, one more distraction, one more delay. But your soul feels the danger of delay now, because one of the scariest things Allah can do to a person is let them become comfortable in spiritual darkness. And maybe that is why your heart no longer feels comfortable there. Maybe Allah is protecting you from becoming spiritually numb. That is why you feel guilty faster now. That is why certain environments drain you. That is why your soul keeps craving silence, prayer, reflection, and peace. Allah is preparing your heart for a different level of closeness. But elevation always requires sacrifice. You cannot rise spiritually while feeding every desire endlessly. You cannot heal while constantly returning to what poisons your soul. You cannot reach Allah while your heart remains chained to dunya. And this is where many people struggle, because they want the comfort of old habits, while also wanting the peace of closeness to Allah. But the two cannot live together forever. Eventually, something must be surrendered. That is why Allah keeps making your soul uncomfortable, not to punish you, to push you toward transformation. Every restless night, every moment of emptiness after sin, every feeling that whispers, "You were made for more than this," is Allah calling you upward. And the frightening truth is this: not everyone listens. Some people silence that inner voice until they no longer hear it. They drown themselves in distractions, entertainment, attention, desires, noise, until the heart slowly hardens. But your soul is still resisting. Your soul still wants Allah, even after your mistakes, even after your failures, even after every time you tried to run away spiritually. Something inside you still wants to return. That itself is a mercy, because there are people whose hearts no longer feel anything at all. But Allah keeps shaking your soul awake. Sometimes through pain, sometimes through loneliness, sometimes through fear, sometimes through deep late-night thoughts that suddenly make you question your entire life. Because Allah wants more for you than temporary pleasure. He wants your heart. Ibn Arabi spoke about the soul's journey toward Allah as a process of purification. The soul is stripped slowly, stripped of illusions, stripped of arrogance, stripped of false attachments, stripped of the identities built around dunya, until eventually the heart begins seeing Allah as the only true source of peace. And maybe that is what is happening to you now. You are outgrowing the version of yourself that could survive without remembering Allah. Your soul is becoming too awake for shallow living. That is why certain things no longer satisfy you. Allah is increasing your spiritual hunger. And spiritual hunger is dangerous if ignored, because either it pushes you closer to Allah or the dunya slowly numbs it again. So do not ignore this season of your life. Do not ignore the pressure you feel inside your chest. Do not ignore the constant feeling that your soul is being called higher. Maybe Allah is preparing you for a rank you cannot reach while remaining who you used to be. Maybe your loneliness is preparation. Maybe your heartbreak was purification. Maybe your restlessness is invitation. Maybe Allah removed certain people because they could not come with you, where your soul is being taken. And maybe years from now, you will look back at this painful season and realize, this was the chapter where Allah saved my soul from becoming asleep forever. So answer the call before your heart becomes distracted again. Pray before your soul becomes numb again. Return before death arrives unexpectedly, because this dunya was never your final destination, and deep down, your soul already knows it. Ya Allah, if my heart has become lost in this dunya, bring it back to you gently. Remove every attachment that takes me away from your light. Fill my soul with peace that only comes from remembering you. Do not let this world make me spiritually asleep. And if you are calling me closer to you, then never let my heart turn away again. Amen.